Testing 1, 2. All right, folks, so welcome. This is the Food, Energy, and Water, Food, Energy, Land, and Water panel. I think you all know my name. I'm Rob Robinson, formerly with the Take Back the Land movement. It still exists in some form. The leadership committee, you saw Max here yesterday. Em Adams is the third member of that leadership committee out of Madison, Wisconsin. While we're not engaging new local action groups, as we like to call them, we still are working with those groups that are still doing the work, mostly myself supporting them in any way possible. Folks like Take Back the Land Rochester, Take Back the Land Portland, and Take Back the Land Chicago. A couple of quick announcements. I left a flyer out front for the Human Rights Project of the Urban Justice Center. It's having what they call their summer soiree fundraiser. Shani Jamila is the director of that program and a good friend, and I think they do some good work out of that organization. So if folks are willing to support them, there's a flyer out front. Our own Marina Citron will be the interlocutor for the opening of Left Forum 2014. She'll be on a panel with Stanley Aronowitz and Cornel West, which will open up on Saturday night. We will have our own Dr. David Harvey along with Angela Davis and Harry Belafonte Jr. Sunday plenary will feature Barbara Bowen, who's a labor organizer, and myself, along with Sharma Sawant, the Socialist Council member from Seattle, Washington. So hope you can attend. You've heard about Free University. I'm a big supporter of Free University, so I'm going to put a lot of pressure on you guys to support those folks. They will be out in Battery Park tomorrow at 2:30. This panel and allows us to bring some folks here from Brazil. We call them MABI, the Movement of People Affected by Gangs in Brazil. You see me wearing the hat, and the group was formed over 20 years ago, but we started a group called U.S. Friends of MABI, and that was started with the support of the Center for Place, Culture, and Politics at the Grad Center a couple of years ago, and I'll go into that in just a minute. There are many other people up on stage with me that are engaged in this work, and I'm just going to quickly, before I introduce the MABI folks, Julian Terrell is from Brotherhood Sister Soul. He's a lead organizer and a core member of U.S. Friends of MABI. We're blessed to have Ray Figueroa, the president of New York City Community Gardens Coalition. He is the 2014 Environmental Advocate of the Year, chosen by the National Resources Defense Council, so it's an honor to have my brother Ray Figueroa up on the stage. In the back doing some translation is Salo Arroyo, who is with Why Hunger. Salo and I have been working together for a number of years. I've also been working with Why Hunger since my days at Picture the Homeless. A funny story that I think Ray will get a kick out of. I don't know if you ever heard it. I once got called on Bill Ayers, who is the executive director of the radio show of Why Hunger, and does a community radio show over WPLJ for about 40 years now. And he invited me on the show, and we talked about a number of different issues. I was, formerly homeless at the time, so we had conversations about homelessness. But then it got to urban farming. And I really doubted that you could grow tomatoes in New York City. And I was serious, man. I challenged Bill, if you can't grow tomatoes in New York City. He said, Rob, I'm going to send you to an urban farm near the Bronx, near Yankee Stadium. And sure enough, I got an education, man. And, I'm still thanking Bill Ayers for that challenge and learning what is happening in New York City at an unbelievable, just at an unbelievable time when people are figuring out ways of self-determination when we're challenged around land and land rights and all of that stuff. Andreas Hernandez is the chair of the International Studies Department at Marymount Manhattan College and speaks Portuguese. So we stumbled upon him with the blessing of Mary Taylor, who helped organize this conference, and Andreas has blessed us with his presence to do some translation. So I'm going to ask you to bear with us as this simultaneous translation goes on. So, Andreas, you do the pleasure. Tell me about it.
Thanks so much for asking. So I'm just finishing up. It'll be released on June 15. It's called Soil, Struggle, and Justice, Agroecology in the Brazilian Land Use Movement. And it'll be available free online for anyone who's interested. So please come see me before we part ways. I'd be happy to send you a copy.
So, and quickly before I introduce the folks from Brazil, I just want to say, Mary and I, in organizing this panel, really attempted to make this an international panel. We tried to bring folks from India and from Africa, and it just, you know, some of the challenges that happened in that type of work just prevented that from happening. We would have liked for folks to be here. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. But then at the last minute, I called a lot of folks here who've been working with me and working with Mavi to kind of step in. And I kept changing this panel over the last 24 hours, and everybody just said, whatever you want, Rob. So some pretty cool people. So finally, I'm going to get to introduce the folks from Mavi, the movement of people affected by dams in Brazil. Alisa Estrianelli works at the movement of people affected by dams in Brazil, and she's in the communication sector. She's a trained journalist, and she documents violations of human rights regarding the building of the Belo Monte Dam in the Brazilian Amazon, and helps in organizing families who are affected by the mega dam. Alisa was born in the southern state of Sao Paulo, and like a partner who was up on the stage, she's a member of Mavi's National Coordinating Committee. Jose Alves de Oliveira is a farmer originally from Brazil, Brazil's northeast state of Ceará. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. He joined Mavi in 1998 as he and his family were affected by the construction of the Castanho Dam. I'm struggling with this Portuguese. He's one of the main leaders of the movement in northeast Brazil, where he played a critical role in organizing the effort to reclaim land, housing, and social services for thousands of displaced families. So I want to welcome both Alisa and Josevaldo, and we'll start off with Alisa giving you a little PowerPoint.
Boa tarde, então, a todos. Primeiramente, a gente gostaria de agradecer pelo convite para estar participando aqui. É uma honra muito grande para nós fazer parte desse espaço.
Good afternoon to everybody, and it's a great honor to be here, and she'd just like to thank everyone so much for the invitation to be here, and it's really an honor to be in this space with you.
A gente vai contar um pouco sobre a luta dos atingidos por barragem no Brasil e também contextualizar um pouco como se organiza o setor da energia lá.
So they're going to tell you a little bit about the history of the movement of people affected by dams, and then particularly focus on questions around energy.
Nós vamos contar essa história a partir da nossa bandeira, que é a nossa identidade.
And we're going to begin by telling the story around through the flag, which is really the center of their identity.
Então, primeiro, nossa bandeira, né? O branco simboliza a nossa organização, a união dos atingidos.
So the white symbolizes our organization, the union of people who are affected.
Um movimento que é pacífico.
And a movement which is non-violent, pacific.
O vermelho simboliza as nossas lutas.
And the green symbolizes our struggles.
O homem crucificado simboliza o desrespeito aos direitos das populações atingidas.
And a person who's crucified symbolizes the disrespect of people who are affected.
E a torre e os fios simbolizam a questão da energia.
And the power pole and the wires symbolize the energy.
Os fios da bandeira significam a exportação dos nossos recursos naturais, que o Josualdo vai falar mais.
And so those power lines symbolize the exportation of our natural resources and power.
Então, o primeiro ponto sobre a nossa organização, né? Já falamos que o branco simboliza a unidade, a união do povo atingido em defesa da paz. Então, o MAB está presente em 17 dos 26 estados do Brasil.
So Mavi is present in 17 Brazilian states.
Em todos os estados tem pessoas que fazem parte da direção nacional, que são 40 pessoas.
And in every state there are people who are part of the National Directory Committee, so made of 40 people.
Além disso, tem direções nos estados e dentro dos estados, nas regiões em que são construídas as barragens.
And so there are There are groups at every scale, down to small regions and locales.
Somando as pessoas nessas direções dos estados, das regiões, tem uma coordenação nacional que dá mais ou menos umas 100 pessoas no movimento.
And then coming out of all these local and regional directories is a national coordination of about 100 people.
Além disso, o movimento se organiza no que a gente chama de grupos de base, que são grupos de por volta de 10 famílias nas regiões atingidas pelas barragens.
So the basis of the movement is in the groups of the base, which are usually consist of 5 or 10 families, and has one man, one woman, and a young person who are elected as coordinators of this base, and that's the, in a sense, that's the foundation for all where the movement comes out of.
Essa forma de organizar é porque o movimento é feito de muitas pessoas. Se a gente for somar as famílias que participam do MAB nas regiões, é dada a ordem de dezenas de milhares de pessoas que participam do movimento.
And so there's so many people who are affected by dams that if we included all the families that are affected, there would be hundreds of thousands of families making part of who they're representing.
Parece que é muita gente, mas se a gente for considerar que no Brasil tem quase 2 milhões de atingidos e que 70% deles não têm seus direitos garantidos, a gente ainda tem muita gente para organizar no Brasil.
And I made an error in the last thing I said. So she's saying that there's about 2 million people who are affected by the dams, and then there are about 200,000 people who are in the movement. And so they still have a lot of people who they'd like to reach out to.
Por isso a gente diz que o MAB ele é um movimento social de massa.
And for this, MAB is considered a social movement of the mass, a mass social movement.
Ele não é uma ONG, não é um fórum, não é uma rede, um coletivo. Ele é o que a gente chama de movimento de massa. Então ele tem essa maneira de se organizar.
So it's not an NGO, it's not a network, it's not a collective, it's a movement of mass, it's a mass movement, and this is the basis of the organization.
Nos nossos grupos de base, que é a primeira organização lá na base que reúne as famílias, nós temos um coordenador, uma coordenadora e um jovem na coordenação desses grupos.
And so in the base groups, that there is one man, one woman, and one young person who are always involved in the coordination of each base group.
Isso porque a gente acha muito importante também fortalecer a participação das mulheres e da juventude no movimento, dentro de uma perspectiva feminista de fim da desigualdade de gênero.
And so coming from a feminist perspective, that it's very important to increase and make sure that there's equal participation among women and young people within the movement starting at this level.
A gente também realiza encontros nacionais a cada 5 anos, mais ou menos, que juntam milhares de pessoas para discutir a linha política do movimento para o próximo período.
And every 5 years there's a national encounter of the movement, which brings together 4 million people, and I'm sorry, 3,000, excuse me, 4,000 people, and which defines the kind of political direction of the movement for the next 5 years.
E nesses encontros também a gente conta com a participação de muitos apoiadores de organizações de outros lugares do mundo, que também são solidários com nós e nós com eles nessa luta.
And in this national encounter, there's a large segment of people who are supporters from other parts of the world or from outside the movement who also play an important part of the movement.
Voltando para a nossa bandeira, o vermelho é uma cor histórica, né, da esquerda, simboliza a luta.
And so returning to the flag, red of course is a historic color of the left and symbolizes struggle.
Nós vamos passar só algumas fotos de algumas lutas recentes, assim, sem comentar muito para não perder muito tempo.
And so they're going to pass a few photos of recent struggles, and they're not going to say too much, to not spend too much time on this, but just to show some of the recent struggles.
Próximo símbolo da bandeira, que é o homem crucificado.
And so the next symbol on the flag of the crucified person.
simboliza a violação dos direitos e tem essa referência católica, até podemos dizer, porque quando o MAB surge, é nesse movimento no Brasil em que a igreja de esquerda teve um papel muito importante para esses movimentos populares.
And so this symbolizes the disrespect for human rights, but it also very much comes out of the left of the Catholic Church, or the left of the Church, which was very much involved in the emergence of this movement.
Então, mais algumas fotos que mostram as violações de direitos que os atingidos sofrem quando são construídas as barragens.
And so these next photos are showing some of the violations of rights that people affected by dams go through or suffer when dams are constructed.
Porque da maneira como são construídas as barragens no Brasil, não importa se é na Amazônia ou se é na região sul, você tem violações de direitos muito semelhantes que são causadas pela construção de barragem.
And so whether it's in the north in the Amazon or perhaps in the south of the country, there are very similar violations of rights when mega dams are built.
Que inclui não ouvir as populações, não perguntar se elas querem ou não que se faça barragem, construir reassentamentos de qualidade ruim, não pagar indenização.
So there's a list of difficulties, including not consulting with the people who are involved or live near where the dams are made, not paying proper payments for land that's lost, not building new housing, and the list goes on.
Acho que agora eu passo então para o Josivaldo para falar um pouco sobre essa questão da energia.
And so now she's going to pass for now he's going to speak about the question of energy.
Boa tarde, camaradas. É um prazer muito grande, mais uma vez, nós do Brasil agradecemos muito por estar participando aqui nessa conferência.
So good afternoon, comrades, and it's a great pleasure again, and that we from Brazil really appreciate the chance to be together again.
Agradecemos o convite, estamos muito contentes com a construção da relação internacional, da solidariedade internacional.
So we're very thankful for this invitation, and that we're very happy to be part of building this international solidarity.
Aos amigos do MAB e o povo trabalhador dos Estados Unidos e dos países que aqui se encontram presentes, nós trazemos o abraço do povo do Brasil que se organiza no MAB e dos demais movimentos da classe trabalhadora.
And so we bring a big hug for the people who've organized, for the working class here, for the people who are friends of MABI, that we bring this big hug for Brazil.
Então, a conferência, o debate, a discussão está a questão de debater, de discutir as alternativas ao capitalismo.
And so the question that we're now facing is debating creative alternatives to capitalism.
E, portanto, nós do MAB temos feito várias análises e nós temos algumas constatações.
And so we at MABI have made some analysis and then we have some contestations.
Em primeiro lugar, eu acho que o debate, se o sistema capitalista ele é condizente com o que modelo nós queremos, né? O Marx, lá no Manifesto Comunista, o Marx já dizia que, o Marx e Engels dizia que o Estado burguês, ele nada mais é do que uma instituição onde os capitalistas, as grandes empresas, as grandes corporações se organizam para conduzir o seu modelo de dominação sobre os trabalhadores.
So we start with the beginning point that capitalism is against what we're trying to do, and we begin with Marx, that really the large bourgeoisie and the large corporations, that the modern state is the aggregation of these forces, and then it makes possible for these forces to do as they please.
Com isso, para falar da energia, a análise que nós temos feito é com a crise da economia capitalista, com a crise centralizada nos países industriais.
So we began our debate, our questioning about energy around the great crisis of capitalism right now and the crisis of capitalism in industrialized countries.
As consequências reais são a retirada do direito dos trabalhadores em todo o mundo e nos seus próprios países, de origem do império e do grupo dos países mais industrializados.
So the real consequences began with the taking of rights of workers, and this is around the world, and then even in the industrialized world, in the center of empire and the historic empire.
A apropriação das riquezas naturais dos países subdesenvolvidos,
the appropriation of natural resources of underdeveloped countries,
que nesse sentido o Brasil, olhando para o mundo, hoje é o país com as melhores condições para expropriação do capitalismo naquela região sul-americana.
And so today Brazil has, in a sense, the greatest conditions for expropriation in that area, or in Latin America in general.
Seja através da água, do minério, da energia elétrica, hídrica e petróleo, da biodiversidade, da terra.
So whether it's whether it's water, or whether it's mining, whether it's electricity. And the important one I forgot oil.
Então, porque com esse entendimento é que a gente vai falar um pouco sobre a questão do nosso movimento e o debate sobre o modelo energético no Brasil, qual o sentido que ele tem.
And so from this perspective, we're going to begin the debate about what our movement is doing in this perspective of energy.
O debate que nós temos feito no Brasil nos últimos 10 anos tem sido no sentido de entender para quem serve a energia, ela é para quê e para quem. É um debate de classe, é um debate de fundo, é um debate com um olhar da economia política.
So the foundational debate that they've been undertaking in the last 10 years is really for whom is the energy being produced?
Bom, a gente consegue comprovar que da energia elétrica produzida no Brasil, quase 30% ela é para exportação.
And so they're able to prove that about 30% of electric energy produced in Brazil is for export.
E a energia que está sendo digamos que ela tem muitas vantagens para qualquer empresa, para qualquer sociedade, é a energia, no caso, em tese, ela é tida como energia limpa, que é a energia hidroeletricidade, da água.
And so importantly, that energy is of course important for any society or any multinational corporation, but in Brazil, that this is cleaner energy because it's hydroelectricity.
E aí, pegando o mapa dos principais países com essa condição, você vai encontrar a China, que tem 1,3, quase 1,4 bilhão de pessoas. Tu vai encontrar a Rússia com uma quantidade de habitantes relevante, né? E você vai ter o Brasil com mais de 200 milhões de habitantes, que tem a terceira colocação na condição de produzir energia a partir da água.
And so of course he's referring to the wheel on the PowerPoint here, that Brazil is the third largest hydroelectric producer on a global scale, and he pointed out that of course China has a very large population, Russia has a significant population, and then there's Brazil in the third place.
Bom, o Brasil tem um potencial de 260 mil megawatts produção de energia a partir da água, no entanto, apenas 30% foi explorado até hoje. Então tem muito que explorar ainda na lógica que está.
And so within the present logic, that only about 30% of the energy that could be exploited is being exploited right now. So there's a lot more that can be exploited.
Na matriz elétrica, né, na matriz é uma coisa, a matriz energética, todas as energias, né? Mas na matriz elétrica, o nosso Brasil é o país que produz praticamente 70% só da energia hidráulica.
And so this graph is showing the energetic matrix of Brazil, and importantly, hydropower is 67.49%, and then others with wind, nuclear, coal.
No caso dos Estados Unidos, é mais ou menos apenas 20% de todo o consumo que vem de energia hídrica.
And so comparing with the United States, about 20% in the United States is hydroelectric.
E é bom assim, ó, olha só, de toda a energia produzida no mundo, 20% da população consome 30% dela, que é os Estados Unidos e mais os países ricos da Europa.
20% of all the energy that is produced in the globe, the North, Europe, and the United States consume 30% of the total energy.
25% de toda a eletricidade produzida no mundo, aqui os Estados Unidos consomem um quarto, ele consome 25% de toda a produção mundial de eletricidade.
And so of all the electricity consumed in the world, that the U.S. consumes about 25% of that.
Bom, e no nosso Brasil, ele é um país relativamente grande, a região onde tem o maior potencial em exploração da produção dessa matriz, da fonte hídrica, está bem na região amazônica, na Amazônia.
So Brazil is, of course, a very large country, and the region which has still the most potential for exploitation of hydroelectrics is in the north, in the Amazon.
Aqui é mais uma ilustração onde está localizado as principais hidroelétricas. Essa região que tem mais pontinhos marcados é a região mais habitada do Brasil. Sul, sudeste é a região mais industrializada e parte do nordeste. A Amazônia está descoberta, menos populosa, por isso menos.
And so we can see today that where the hydroelectric exploitation is happening is still mostly in the south, where it's more populated, and we see the part that still has the most potential in the north and the Amazon is barely detached.
Bom, tem, só voltando aqui, Saulo, existe hoje na Amazônia, só para nós ter uma noção, várias hidrelétricas em construção. Belo Monte é a principal região onde a Elisa trabalha, com mais de 11 mil megawatts em construção. Tem as do Madeira, enfim, tem muitas hidrelétricas sendo construídas na Amazônia, onde está desalojando indígena, a floresta, inundando as populações ribeirinhas tradicionais, enfim.
And so today, where the largest dams are being made, tends to be more in the north, and this, of course, is dislocating indigenous people. It's cutting down forests and a lot of environmental destruction.
E o debate que nós temos feito é para entender a lógica na economia que funciona a energia. Qual é a lógica que ela funciona, né?
And so at the center of our debate, we've really been trying to understand what is the function of energy within kind of the larger economy, or the larger political economy.
Na matriz mundial, o petróleo ou fontes fósseis chega aquele percentual vai dar o quê? 80% das fontes. A hidroeletricidade no Brasil, ela é uma média de toda a energia produzida. O lucro dela é o lucro mais extraordinário que temos hoje em todos os países.
And so we see that on a global level that petroleum is the major force of energy, but we see in Brazil that almost 50% of energy is hydroelectric, and it has a tremendous profit.
Aqui os maiores pagadores ou os principais dividendos no lucro a partir da energia, e a gente vai encontrar eles, você vai pegar os bancos, vai pegar as empresas de energia elétrica, você vai pegar as telecomunicações, as empresas de bebida e outros agora.
And so this chart is showing where the profits for hydroelectric energy is going, and you can see that banks have by far the largest share of the profits, and then going to electric energy companies themselves, then telecommunications, then food and drink, and then other forms.
The graphic is showing by sector how much the profit is made. So in the banks, that's the average of billions of dollars. Then the electrical sector, and the telecommunications and food and beverage. So you can see that the electrical energy that's what they mix. The second one that makes more profit in Brazil.
E o mais grave disso é que as empresas, as transnacionais, elas estão emitindo mais do que o lucro, que é o dividendo, aos seus países. Ou seja, se pegar a AES, se pegar a Duke...
So I'm going to pass the translation on. Our friend is speaking in a regional accent I'm having some difficulties with, and I think that we're going to do better.
Thanks so much. So I'm also from Northeast, so I understand Joseval's accent. So what he's
É porque, no caso da energia elétrica, as transnacionais são as que mais têm lucro e as que mais emitem lucro para os seus países de origem.
So what he's trying to explain is that in the production energy, the electrical companies, they are sending the money out of the country more than they are making out of profit from the activity. So that's a deep, sending more money para fora, né?
Porque se elas lucrar, digamos, 10 bilhões, elas estão remetindo para o exterior, para o seu país de origem, digamos, 11 bilhões.
So if they are making, let's say, a year, $10 billion a year in profits, they are sending out of Brazil 11 billion or 12 billion more than the profit they're making. So they are actually speculating with the market and the contribution of public funds and the.
Aqui é um quadro que a gente no Brasil, a gente apelida, a gente chama dos donos da energia. São esses que têm força econômica e política naquele país e em muitos outros.
So they're called the owners of the energy.
Bancos.
So those are the banks that are involved.
Metalurgia.
The metal industries, manufacturing.
Empresas de energia, Duke.
So there are two companies, U.S. companies, the Duke Energy and IES.
O máquinas e equipamento, Alstom, Siemens, vai pegar também do agronegócio, enfim, é um esquema muito...
The agribusiness, international agribusinesses, the construction companies, and also the ones, the companies who work with electronics. So those are the companies who are controlling the production of energy in Brazil.
Essas têm unidade na política, têm unidade sobre a violação dos direitos.
So they are coordinated. They don't have no influence in the economic sector, but also in the political decisions in Brazil.
Bom, qual tem sido a tática política que nós, enquanto MAB, temos usado? Primeiro, entendendo o modelo e quem de fato está se apropriando do lucro, porque isso aqui, essa política é resultado do neoliberalismo da década de 90.
So yeah, I'm asking him to be sure in the otherwise I'm going to forget everything. So that's MAB has developed a political strategy of trying to denounce how those energies are making a profit out of the Brazilians. through actually the high rate of electricity, electrical bills and domestic use. So that's the campaign showing that the electrical rate in Brazil is a robbery. Because in Brazil that Brazilians pay the highest rate of electricity in the world. One of the.
Então, o que a gente conseguiu também entender ao longo desse período de estudo, né, de aprofundar, é que a matriz elétrica brasileira ela está vinculada à política de comercialização, de venda de energia, que é o petróleo a nível mundial.
So in the global market, the electricity produced by hydropower dams is equal. Is regulated, is defined by the price of the petrol in the global market.
E aí qual a explicação que o Brasil é a quinta tarifa de luz mais cara do mundo?
So the question is why is Brazil paying the fifth highest electricity rate in the world?
Se a produção nossa 80% é hidro, é energia mais barata, e os países que têm energia fóssil, digamos, a França 76% da sua energia é nuclear. E o que significa então o Brasil pagar mais caro do que a França, por exemplo, ou os Estados Unidos?
So then the question why France that has the electricity is not produced by nuclear plants, why they are paying less than Brazil? Why the people in France are paying less than in Brazil?
Então a gente começou a desenvolver no Brasil desde 2006 um profundo debate na sociedade, começando pelas organizações dos trabalhadores.
So in 2006 we started this campaign to create this debate, to raise this issue among Brazilians.
Para fazer a denúncia na questão da tarifa e daqui fazer as lutas reivindicatórias e as lutas necessárias para baixar o preço da luz e botar o povo nas ruas.
So to mobilize the different sectors and then defend the Brazilians' rights over the energy produced in Brazil.
Aqui são dados, mas é só para ver uma comparação. Isso aqui são as empresas que consomem muita energia no Brasil.
So this is to show, that's a graphic to show which industries are consuming the most the energy produced in Brazil.
E elas pagam em média entre 8 a 10 reais, seria 5 dólares o quilowatt.
So the kilowatt paid by the companies are around $5.
E as residências, quer dizer, o povo paga em média 45, 50 reais pela mesma quantidade de energia.
And the families are paying about $23 for the same kilowatt of energy.
Aqui são a média de valor do quilowatt de energia produzido no Brasil. Na região amazônica, 31, na região mais centro-oeste, 29, no nordeste, 28, 29, fica numa média de 28 centavos o quilowatt por hora.
So in reality, when we are producing the energy by division, you can see the cost of the same kilowatt would be around 15 cents.
Aqui uma ilustração dos Estados Unidos, que a média da tarifa dos americanos naquele período era de R$19 o quilowatt de energia, muito mais barato do que no Brasil.
So if you see here that in the United States the kilowatt of energy is much less, it's almost half of the price in Brazil.
Bom, para encerrar, a gente tem feito algumas análises e aprofundar o debate. Nós estamos construindo o que nós chamamos de um modelo energético popular para o Brasil.
So MABI is discussing what are the alternative policies, energy policies for Brazil.
E que esse modelo, a concepção, é uma concepção que pressupõe uma mudança do modelo de consumo, mas também pressupõe uma mudança de modelo de todos os hábitos, né? Inclusive o rompimento das estruturas capitalistas atuais.
So in our analysis, for us to for alternative solution for this, we need to rethink not only consumption, our consumption partners, but also the capital accumulation, the capitalist structures that control the energy production.
E a gente tem feito muito uma política de alianças que a gente tem chamado de plataforma operária camponesa.
So we are fostering alliances. That one of them is called the platform, the peasant worker alliance, platform.
É uma estrutura política estratégica entre organizações, movimentos sociais do campo, no caso o MABI, MST.
It's an alliance between social movements, including the landless workers movement and other social movements.
E os trabalhadores do petróleo, os petroleiros, e os trabalhadores humanitários da energia, da água, do saneamento.
And the workers in the petroleum sector, in the electricity, electrical workers.
Então, esse é o debate que a gente está construindo. Portanto, a nossa luta é contra a violação dos direitos.
Our struggle is against the violation of human rights.
É contra a expoliação dos direitos dos trabalhadores e do lucro da presença das empresas no país.
It's against the exploitation of the workers.
E para construir uma organização capaz de responder pelas estruturas que estão postas no nosso país, né?
And also create a power for us to confront the unequal and unjust structures and political structures in our country.
Uma extrema aliança de classe.
It's a class alliance. Cross class.
Graças.
Thank you.
I'm going to, because we're short on time, first I'll announce that on Tuesday we'll be at 16 Beaver with Alyssa and Joseph Aldo having a strategic dialogue with community-based organizations. All are welcome. That will take place 8 o'clock at 16 Beaver. I'm going to jump over to Julian and ask Julian just to share quickly some of the experiences that we had in September when we went down there, particularly in the 2 direct actions that we had. I mean, for me, you know, being a big proponent of direct action, I was fascinated by the organization, by the partnerships that happened within those groups. So, just explain it.
Hello? Hello? Peace, everybody. Okay, I'm going to do that again. Peace, everybody. Peace. There we go. I know we've been doing a lot of talk. So I think it was a blessing to be over there. I specifically work on developing young people as organizers. I think when we're talking about capitalism, not only do we need to talk about the people who are benefiting from it, but also look at the fact, how do we challenge that within ourselves, right? And redefining what community actually means to be able to do that. So I say that because I think being able to build with folks who are dealing with similar struggles across waters, I think is a great way to be able to do that. And looking at the role of young people and the role that they play in MABI was specifically the reason why I went over there. And one of the things that I think that really stood out to me is just the role that young people play in that movement, right? The holders of the culture. I mean, there were about 4,000 people, you know, on Paulista Avenue, which was one of the actions that we participated in. And it could have been very easily, let's bring the young people just to be there or to be a part of the experience, right? It could have very easily just been that. But at the time, What happened instead was that the young people were at the forefront of it, right? They were the ones who were not just leading the chants, but also holding the energy, right? They were the ones who were breaking off in strategic groups to be able to also, well, I mean, we call it tagging or graffiti over here, but it's more putting up messages so people who either weren't a part of the marches or weren't present at the time could still benefit from the education that was going out against Alston's and Simmons, which was two of the companies that were up there. So I think it really speaks to, you know, saying just the intentionality that Mabi is bringing. I think that's something that we can learn a lot of in the work that we're doing over here. I mean, you hear when they mention just even in the infrastructure of how the group is developed, again, not just having young people in the meetings, but having a leadership position, right? There's a brother, Bob Bullock, who's a great activist, you know, saying one of the leaders in the environmental justice movement, who often says that we don't need to just be at the table, right? We also need to be setting the menu. Just because you're at the table doesn't mean you're not on the menu. And I say that a lot when we're talking about young people, because a lot of times we just want to have them in the space and don't realize the opportunities that we're not providing for them. So I think that was one of the things that I took back, you know, saying from Mabi, and the energy that they're able to bring, because the young people are really at the center of it, right? And they're challenging and they're really pushing. How can they bring in folks, you know, saying for the long run, because it takes discipline, you know, saying to be able to deconstruct what we're talking about, right? Not just on this panel, but a lot of things that we talked about. It's not going to happen right away. And if we're not engaging our young people in this work, we are failing. I'll say it again. If we are not engaging our young people in this work, we are failing. Right? Yeah, we can clap it up for that. We can clap it up for that. Just be quiet in here.
So Julie, I'm going to just take it back because we're pressed for time, but I appreciate your comments. The other part of our group that was down there was Ryan Schleep, who was with Witness, the storytelling project out of Brooklyn. He is no longer with that organization, but we were the 4 members that made up the core group of U.S. Friends of Mabi that went there. I also had the pleasure of traveling a month later to Bilbao to partake in a national encounter with Mabi. And I was asking Alyssa across the floor when I saw the list of financial institutions. I was asking about BBVA, which is a huge conglomerate of a bank. And they focus a lot on transnational capital, transnational banks. And one of the things we did a night action and caught folks off guard at this particular bank in this brand new building that was isolated in a part of downtown. So I think the way they do their political education, the way they form alliances is just incredible. But I think the other part that I found fascinating about Mabi is they see themselves past an environmental justice movement. One of the things they made clear when they invited us is the struggle is about land, right? And it's something that we were hinting on constantly through this conference. All of our struggles are related. Jeannie did a good job of that earlier today on the panel with Miguel. She said all of our struggles, we might line up in silos and say it's different, the issue is different, but in the end, we're all fighting for the same shit. So on that order, I'm going to bring in Ray Figueroa here, who is fighting for land here and the right to grow food. And Ray does a lot of work around food justice in New York City. And it's all connected. And I think this whole global solidarity, people are starting to understand it. Ray works with the U.S. Food Sovereignty Alliance and La Via Campesina. So he'll just give us a couple of words about the work he does.
Thank you very much, and it's a real honor to be with our sister and brother from Brazil. Thank you so much for sharing and teaching us. Thank you, Rob, and thank you, Julie, and thank you all for this opportunity. Well, what we do in the community garden movement here, what I like to say, I was really impressed with the last panel where they talked about the commons. And if you were here, you heard about that, and they talked about subsistence. What I want to do is just touch upon that really quickly. There's something with capitalism that we all know, but it doesn't get raised when we're talking about it, poverty. Okay, poverty and unemployment. Really, there's something that capitalism does, and it displaces people. We're talking about people from, you know, the Ogoni, and what the oil interests did in West Africa, and what Ken Saro-Wiwa did over there. We're talking about hydroelectric in Brazil. Well, right here in the city, it's not necessarily energy interests that are displacing people, but real estate development interests, real estate at any cost, real estate development at any cost. So community gardens, what community gardens do, they allow people to be productively engaged, right, in the face of poverty, in the face of structural unemployment, to be productively engaged in a way that is meaningful, in a way that is self-determining, and in a manner which honors their sense of human dignity. How do they, and what are they doing? They're growing food. In some cases, they're growing their medicine. If you can just think about the variety of folk that come to community gardens, immigrants, native-born, black, white, South Asian, are all in the community garden. What we are struggling with, and so community gardens are a commons, and they're beautiful. And there was a term mentioned about that the commons are very good. When they're able to thrive when they're invisible. Well, there are a lot of community gardens on side streets. There's one community garden that's not on the side street, out in Coney Island, right on the coast. And during the Bloomberg administration, there was this vision of rezoning and developing a Gold Coast. So we have this community garden about an acre in size called Boardwalk Community Garden. And just a beautiful, beautiful, thriving, productive cultural hub within the community, where people came together not just for growing food, but growing their sense of place, a precious sense of having a place in this life. In the face of unrelenting poverty, in the face of food stamp cuts, on and on and on, cuts in health insurance, cuts to their pension, or no pension for that matter, for some of the community gardeners. Well, what happened here is that community garden was bulldozed very, very recently. And so we, in the process, the community, we've been organizing for about a year, very, very steadily, and bringing this to the powers that be, notwithstanding the powers that be were very, very much influenced by the real estate development interest. Just as a point of information, if you look at the City Planning Commission, one of the hubs for decision-making with respect to the disposition of land here in the City Planning Commission is made up of all real estate developers. So how do you have a commission ostensibly overseeing the process for the public process over the disposition of public land made up of real estate developers? It's really an imbalance there. It's capitalism has insinuated itself into our democratic institutions in a way that's very, very damaging for communities. So we're suing the bastards. We're taking them to court. And so, that's what we talk about. So what I want to say is that in the process, the community, these are very, I had one lady that said, you're going to help us? I said, yeah, you're going to join this. You're going to do this for yourself. And so community, they've been organizing, they've been having protests, press conferences, and now they've signed on to this lawsuit. So we're organizing around a court case. Just want to put it out there, and I'll just close with this. June 10th, if you can anyway find your way clear, on June 10th, Tuesday, Brooklyn State Supreme Court, 9:30 in the morning. That's right at Borough. Take the 2, 3, 4, and 5 train to Borough Hall. We're going to be there. A packed courtroom will make a very, very powerful statement. And, the Magna Carta was alluded to earlier. I just want to put out there that there's another age that goes back ages and millennia, for that matter. It's the public trust doctrine. And so we're bringing this case on the basis of the public trust, something that has to be respected, people's right to land, right to grow food on that land. And so we would love for folks to come out. And we're having a fundraiser that's for our litigation happening that same evening, right here at Judson, not too far in the NYU neighborhood at Judson Memorial Church. So thank you. I just would like to hear from others. Peace.
Unfortunately, thank you, Ed. Unfortunately, we're out of time and we can't take questions from the audience. I want to apologize for that, but again, the folks from Mobby will be around. We'll go to 16 Beaver tonight. We will be at 16 Beaver on Tuesday for a strategic dialogue. All are invited. We hope to pack the place. I want to thank Brother Julian Terrell, Ray Figueroa, Andres Hernandez, Salo Arroyo, my brothers and sisters from Brazil. Peace. I've learned a lot from you guys. The whole thing with MST and connecting us and the struggle, seeing the youth struggles come together, it's what I call movement building. I think here in the U.S., we have a lot to learn from Mobby. I'm going to officially end on that statement. Have a good night, everybody.